It was tough. They were lost. It was heartbreaking. They witnessed something that no one should ever have to see. My name is Denise Reed. My students call me Mrs. Reed because I'm an assistant principal at Pompano Beach High School. My favorite teacher was a professor in college, Lee Jones at Broward Community College. He taught sociology, marriage and family, and social problems, and I loved all three of those courses.
On February 14th, 2018, Valentine's Day, at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, near the end of the school day, while everybody was preparing to be dismissed and make their way home, the unthinkable happened. A 19-year-old gunman, armed with a semi-automatic rifle, walked onto campus, entered the hallway of Building 12, and opened fire. He shot at students and teachers in the hallway and fired through windows of classroom doors. The shooting lasted for about 6 minutes, and when the smoke cleared, 14 students and 3 faculty members had lost their lives. Scott Bagel, a geography teacher, was killed after he unlocked a classroom for students to enter and hide from the gunfire. Aaron Feiss, an assistant football coach and security guard, was killed as he shielded 2 students from flying bullets. And Chris Hickson, the school's athletic director, was killed as he ran toward the sound of the gunfire and tried to help fleeing students. Hello, teachers from around the world, and welcome to the legendary Educator podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Ramos. The Parkland shooting, as it is now known, was the deadliest high school shooting in U.S. history, surpassing the infamous Columbine shooting of 1999, where 15 lives were lost. My guest this week is Miss Denise Reed, former assistant principal of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Miss Reed was on campus during the incident and was one of the first people on the scene, even before the gunfire had subsided. We discuss her personal experience of the tragic events of that day, the aftermath of the incident and how it affected her teachers, and how teachers should be cared for in times of crisis and after traumatic events. I'm truly honored to have her as my very special guest this week. Miss Reed, welcome. Mrs. Reed, thank you for your time today and for joining me, especially because we will be discussing a very touchy subject. A teacher's worst nightmare is losing a student. You surpassed that and you experienced a worst case scenario for any teacher. If you don't mind, can you sort of walk us through what you experienced, what you saw, what you witnessed on that day?
So this is going to be the 5th year since the Parkland shooting, and I was one of the assistant principals on the campus. Unfortunately, I witnessed everything because of cameras and my location as far as being how close I was to everything. I had to look at the cameras to find what had occurred at one point, and so was able to see, or I saw the actual shooting occur, and it was pretty unbelievable, just something I don't think anybody ever wants to experience.
How far away were you from the actual event? Were you in the same building? Were you on the same floor?
So yes, I was not in the same building, but I was running to the building because of when we were hearing what was going on the radio. Well, first of all, the fire alarm went off, and that's what triggered me to leave the main office. It was at the end of the day. It was about 2:20 when the alarm went off, and our school releases at 2:40. So we were like wrapping things up in the front office, trying to get ready for dismissal. And so when the alarm went off, it was really odd. And so we were trying to figure out what it was. And our panel will tell us what it is. And it said gas on the panel. And I told the other assistant principal, well, I'll go there. You start getting everyone out of the school. And that's what, because the alarm was going off. I said, you start working that. I'll head over there. So I got within about, I would say, 100 feet from the building when I came upon the police officer with his gun drawn, and I could hear gunfire in the building.
How long was it until the police arrived?
Well, we had a deputy on campus to start with.
Okay.
And apparently he knew or heard the gunfire before the alarm went off. So he had already started calling for help, and people knew. So as soon as our protocol is, once the police are on campus, they take over. You let them do their job. So as soon as I saw him at that point, I knew that he was on the radio, calling things out to people. And I had just passed the building in which my students, when there's a fire alarm, my students would be exiting for the fire alarm. So I looked in the window and I could see them going out, and I thought, good, they're on point. So then when I continued on and came to the point where I could hear the gunfire and saw him, I went back to get my kids back in. Now we're on a lockdown. So I went in that building and I got my kids, and it actually is the music building. So I went in there and got all my students, and I thought at the time there were only 30, but I was working so fast to get them down low, and I had taken the bandstands and flipped them all up so that from the door when you come in, they were like a blockade.
A barrier, right.
A barrier.
Yeah, okay.
So there were 70 kids in that room at the time, and I didn't realize how many, but until the police let us out. It was approximately an hour after the shooting when we were let out of that room.
And so when you went into the building, were you close? Were you in the same sort of vicinity?
So I just opened the doors as on the first hallway because all the police were standing there, and I go, what happened in here? And they just were like, they couldn't even speak. Our deputy was there, our they call him our SRO, and he was standing there, our police officer was standing there. He goes, it's awful, Miss Reed, it was awful. And I just opened the doors, and it was awful. And I shut the doors, and I went on to the...
You opened the doors to...
The first floor.
Where this was happening?
Where it happened.
It had happened.
Yes, where it had happened. And then just shut the doors and went to find the police officer command post.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you what you saw in there, but I do want to know, were there any teachers around you, with you, who also witnessed what you witnessed?
Well, I did catch up with them. Were pushed out the other side of the building, so they went out a different direction, and the police took them out that way with their classes. So they headed out the west end, and I was on the east end of the building. So I didn't at that point, but we worked until about 1:30 in the morning, and then we met our teachers at 7:30 I met the teachers. I was assigned, and those were my teachers and people that I had a relationship with. So the principal said, I would like you to go and meet up with them at the library. That's where we were sending all staff. So you have a relationship with all these people. So that I had the close, everybody had a good relationship. It was a great situation, but they were my teachers, a lot of them. I had friendships with them and, a real relationship beyond the classroom with a lot of them. So I met up with them at the library the next morning.
The next morning. Okay.
And
how was that meeting in the morning?
I told people it reminded me of the Field of Dreams when the people come out of the cornfields, and the look on their face was extremely empty. Didn't know. They just were it was tough. they were lost. It was heartbreaking. They witnessed something that no one should ever have to see. Even, like you think about all the police officers, what they saw, the first responders, it's not what is expected in life. Like, you don't ever, as much as you try to prepare for something, I'm sure they prepare for stuff, but it's not something you should ever have to witness, ever.
I mean, when we see these things on the news or we hear about them, like, our hearts hurt. I can't even begin to imagine being on campus, having a relationship with the teachers or the students who were lost that day. I can't. I'm not going to even begin to imagine.
Right. It's just, it's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking. But, and I just am so impressed by the children and the teachers on that campus afterwards. The resiliency was absolutely incredible. The willingness to come back, to fight through whatever their fears were, and how they did that is, it says everything about them and who they are as a human being, because I don't know how you do that. And it was done, and we did it together, but it was very difficult. And
how did this affect the teachers?
So you really fear what's the unknown. Like, that's really what it is now, where your sense of security and safety, now you don't have that any longer, because there's just, in life, you just know that, okay, something could happen, but you never believe that it's going to happen, like, especially in a school.
Right.
Or even in your own, like your home, something, those are like sacred places. And that to me was where, your school's sacred.
Right.
We go here to learn. We have the children. We're constantly, as a teacher, we're constantly counting, sorting, or where they go, who are they? That is like your whole being is watching children, taking care of children. And whether it is from the minimalist who went out to the restroom, coming back, how long have they been gone, that kind of, and you almost think that's silly to be, but that is, now put that on tenfold, and that safety and security is no longer there. And those simple things that you thought about now are being questioned. Why did you let so-and-so go to the restroom at that time? I don't know, they needed to go to the restroom. And then you start saying, if I didn't let them go to the restroom, if I wouldn't have let somebody go to the library, if I wouldn't have let somebody out the door. But and those things were very normal and natural. Now it's like you question yourself, and everyone started to say, question stuff. And so we will never, you can't second guess those things. But that kind of happened for a while until everybody, really, it was a process of dealing with all of those things and coming to terms with what you do and what you did was the best you could at that time. That's what you had. It was the best you could do.
What was the fallout on the teachers? Some teachers, I'm assuming some teachers left or not, maybe. I don't, what was the effect on the teacher community?
99% returned to school.
Okay.
99% returned to school.
Okay.
Very resilient group. I'm telling you, I'm so proud of who they who they are. I love them dearly. We get together all the time. We, as a, we get together, we support one another. It's very hard. It puts you back in the moment when something happens at another school. Something happens in a building in which feels very similar to what happened to us. So a lot of people will get that feeling. It goes back, a little bit where you are uneasy. But every year, I think it gets you get a little bit stronger. Not that it gets easier, you get stronger. And we do, we will get together here. Day of Remembrance is coming up on the 14th of February, and we will be getting together as a faculty and staff and we meet privately as a group, those that were on the campus that day. And it's very nice that it's not that, I almost equated it to, my dad always went to the VFW, or where the lodge was. They don't sit and talk about the war. They sit and talk about any and everything because they already know
Right.
I don't need to tell you about it. I don't need to talk to you about it. You talk about everything else, but it's a safe place where everybody knows what you've been through, where you've been. So afterwards, that was the comfort zone, was to be with others from the campus. And so I think a lot of that was what we did. We got together quite a bit. We worked on our mental health and made sure that we were strong and the best we could be for our students and the other staff, and around us. And we had to be strong for our families too. Our families, were frightened and went through a lot. And we are all different because of it. So now they're dealing with different people.
How were the teachers supported after the event, and what kind of support did they need?
So I got them a lot of, we looked outside. It's trauma support you need. You do not need grief counseling because it's not about grief. It's about trauma. You have been hit by something that you will never be able to describe to anyone, inside and out. So trauma was really the key. There is something that the police and the fire already do every day. My son-in-law is a firefighter and my father was a police officer. So if they went on a scene in which something really tragic happened, there's a team that comes and talks to them. It is a critical response team. So critical incident response, and there's experts in this field. And what they do is they know that there are certain things that happen to every human body. It's physiology and psychology. So it's a combination of things. So they talk to you about what you need to be looking for within yourself. So we got a lot of that kind of counseling. We had some experts flown in, and we had a seminar all day one day, and my teachers, the light bulbs went off. They go, that's why I feel this way. And so the police officers, so you go to a drowning of a toddler in a pool, you'll have a team member from your police department, there's a team member assigned to you, and that person monitors you. Goes through the protocol, which is asking questions. How are you feeling? How are you feeling today? What's going on? That wasn't something that we should see. It's really just giving you the understanding of what went wrong, what you should, you're validated. It's validating your feelings. And it's sharing with you also that, at that time you might do things that are not of your character. You start to, because of, how you feel, and they warn you of all those things and come on, you got to keep it right, keep talking. And that person is with you to help you. So that was critical for us. It was huge. And we did support one another. We would meet one another after work if someone had not a day, this wasn't a great day. One of the things I did notice, we lost our one building. It was shut down with 30 classrooms. So we had to immediately, because we went back to school within 2 weeks. So we reopened the school in 2 weeks, and we put the teachers, normally a teacher has their classroom themselves, and now they were sharing classrooms. So where it was my plan period, someone else was using my classroom. So a lot of people were on carts, pushing their cart with their stuff, and so they weren't having their own stuff. So a lot of them helped each other out. and like made space in their classroom. You can always keep your stuff in here if you want. We also took a lot of like textbook closets. We cleaned those out. We made them into quiet rooms because one of the things with PTSD, which quite a few of us had that, you need calm and quiet, and then
Out of school.
Out of school.
With
And
the bells going off
Yes.
and the students running around and Mrs. Reed this, Mrs. Reed that.
Right,
Yeah.
or a teacher that was coming out of a classroom and going, I just taught, this was the coolest lesson, and they're going like this, and you're like going, I just need quiet, bring it down. So we made like Zen rooms, and it really was awesome because I took that and I realized that that's what every school needs too, anyways, just in general. This is a job where it's high stress sometimes, and we just really could use that. So, I love that that's something that this whole district went to, was a lot of mindfulness, talking about meditation, I have a lamp on my desk now. I didn't realize overhead lights just are triggers.
No.
Fluorescent lights are not good for you. So I have a lamp on my desk, and a lot of times I'll shut my light out and put my lamp on. If it's been
Love that.
If it's been a really stressful day, and so that's a way to come down. So I've learned a lot of things personally that help me in general for reducing stress, because that's what PTSD is triggered by stress, and then that gives you that anxiety. So so we did a lot of that, and I worked with the teachers. I went to my teachers every day and checked on them every day. I'd go through the whole little hallways and go grab their hands, look at their eyes, and make sure they were cool, ready to go.
Who checked on you?
That was tough.
Who checked on you?
That was tough because we were the leadership team, and we didn't have that in the very beginning. So it took a while, but we crashed. There was a point when I crashed about 6 months after.
By crashed, what do you mean?
So I literally had an episode where I forgot a complete conversation with someone. Like I kept saying, I never spoke to you about that. I have the memory of like a steel trap. My husband, 40 years of marriage, he goes, how do you remember that? And I will tell him exactly.
I know what he's talking about.
Correct. And women probably mostly remember everything. I can tell my husband what he was wearing when he said it.
Yep.
Okay?
I know exactly what he is.
So for me to completely forget a conversation, and my friend thought, are you joking? She said, are you kidding me? Like, Denise, this was so vivid. And I'm like, we didn't have this conversation. 100% we did. That was my crash. That was when I completely realized I needed some help. So I did go through a couple of therapists because I'm an extremely strong person to start with. So ran a couple of them around the block, and then found someone that truly understood trauma and understood me, and it was a perfect fit, and it really changed my life. It just put me in a great place now. I'm in a great place, yes.
Was the care that the teachers got enough? Obviously looking back, hindsight is 2020. Is there anything more somebody could have done? Is there anything else somebody could have done? What should they have received? What could have they received?
So I don't think it's going to be like more, but it would have been sooner and more organized and better. It is, everybody kept saying, well, nobody believes this is going to happen. So you're not really prepared for something like this. And now Columbine was 20 years ago. Why aren't we?
Right, yeah.
Again, why aren't we? So I'm not saying, but I know every district is doing this. It's not just us. It's not just where we are now. But I know that there are a lot of places that are still not there where we are now. I mean, we have a lot of resources, 100% now. But at the time, did not have, they had grief counseling. They did not have the trauma in place, nor did they understand that that was what was needed first and foremost. And it took a little bit to get that together. But once it came in, then we knew what that was the difference. That was the change maker right there, is the trauma counseling. And we continue with that. There is someone coming here, Deb Scully Del Vecchio. She was with Sandy Hook. And Deb came down for us. And she still comes, and she'll be here February 4th all day for our teachers. And she is probably someone that led us to a lot of very good people and a lot of questions. She helped us form the questions to our district as to when are you going to get us this? How are we going to get this? We need this, and what we needed. She gave us some lists of things that we needed to be asking for and how to help ourselves.
Okay, let's end with some advice to the teachers out there. If a teacher witnesses something that is tragic or traumatic, or loses a student, or goes through something that is going to affect them in a way, right? What should they do? What should they look for? Who should they talk to? What should they talk about? What should they ask?
Well, I think that definitely, hopefully leadership is there and they're able to support that, but definitely it's trauma counseling and trauma therapists. Those are the ones that understand what occurred and how to come through that, and there's just techniques, there's all kinds of little techniques that get you through it and people don't even know you're doing it. There's tapping, there's things with the rhythm of the brain and stuff, just sometimes when you're nervous or anxious, not nervous, anxious, there's tapping your legs and your feet at this, you go up and down, up and down, up and down like this. So I can sit at a table and no one knows that I'm anxious and I'm under the table doing a little tapping, and it brings me right back to where I need to be. So they give you tools that get you to where you are able to be the best you can be. So definitely have to go look for the help, though.
Don't wait.
No, absolutely not. It is the faster you get that support and those techniques and that help, the sooner you are heading in the right direction.
Even if you think you're okay.
Correct. Even if you think you're Wonder Woman and you're strong. I told my therapist, I said, I'm not no sissy crybaby. And she's like, oh, that's what she throws back at me all the time. Yeah, I know you're not no sissy crybaby. But no, I've never been that way. I'm always very strong person. I've been through a lot of tragedy in my life. But this just took me to my knees for the first time. Seriously. And we've had a lot in our schools and seen a lot. But I take care of, I told you this before too, that I like to take care of my job is to take care of my teachers.
Yes.
So that was what I was focused on,
because teachers take care of the students.
That's one.
Right.
If I take care of them, they do the job I really want done, and that's my kids getting taken care of.
Right.
So that's what I did, but I didn't look at myself. And I think that's something that we all need to do while we're taking care of the children. This is to educators. You're taking care of those kids. What are you doing for you? Right. What are you doing for you? I really I was pretty good as a teacher, that when I walked out of the building, that was it for me. I definitely shut down and went home because I wanted to be present every time I will stay till 6, 7 o'clock at night, get it done. So when I walk in the door, I'm present.
Right.
So I've always done that as a teacher, but as an administrator, it was harder for me because I felt responsible for everyone.
Right.
That's a lot more than one person, So
extending that answer, and this may feel redundant, but how about leadership, administration, what are they supposed to do for the teachers who are going through trauma or crisis or loss or bereavement, etc.?
Well, that's my job. I got to take care of them. So I always, in my routine, know my teachers, have conversations at the beginning of the school year. I try to see where they're at, what's going on in their lives. So then I am also trying to be supportive there. There's a lot of teachers like myself, even at this point. My parents are now older and things are going on. I'm in that role, taking care of my parents. So there's a lot, and I found this even this year. I have several teachers that are going through the same thing, looking for assisted living for their parents and stuff like that. So and I know that because I go and speak to them and check on them. So that's our job, so that I'm going to try to help them take some burden in any way I can help them so they can take care of our students.
The job of the leadership is to support the teachers because the teachers support the students. I love that. Thank you so much for your time, Mrs. Reed.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Reed, for sharing your experience with us and for the powerful messages and advice you've given. Teachers, take care of yourselves and of each other. No one expects to witness or to be part of a tragic event or traumatic experience. But if you've been affected by something, don't keep it in. Ask for help. You owe it to yourself and to your students. Thank you for tuning in this week. If you'd like to support the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. Next Monday, I'll be speaking with another legendary educator. Class dismissed.